What a powerful song. You know, during this transition time for Unity Church of Clearwater, we haven't had a lot of folks step up and say, I'd like to join. We haven't pushed it. We're just glad when we see you. But I was praying about that, and that very week, it was over a year ago, maybe two, that we got a membership application. Oh, you always rejoice to see that. And this was the youngest member that I remember anyone being when they joined the church. So that was intriguing and encouraging. And we asked Sean to come and speak with us so that we could get to know him better. Why would you join this offbeat bunch here? And we find that, I know I'm a bit biased, but Sean is one in a million. When my husband listened to him, talked with him, he did not ask to speak to us. We asked him if he would please come and talk to us. When young people, we're told, are not joining churches, not very interested in religion, he was a person of exemplary record. He has his MBA already. Our newest member earned his undergraduate degree in business administration and master's in business administration at the University of South Florida. Throughout his life, he's been fortunate to be afforded opportunities to get involved in his community throughout Tampa Bay, seeing firsthand the tangible impacts that come from working to create positive change at the local level. Specifically, he has served as the district office manager for now former U.S. Congressman Charlie Crist. Sean has also served as the campus governor at University of South Florida, St. Petersburg campus, and as a global goals ambassador of the United Nations Association of the United States. All these experiences have strengthened his knowledge of this work, and he speaks to us on the importance of listening, working with others, even those whose background and viewpoints are unique to us, and finding ways to behold the good in one another and to serve humankind. He is an excellent communicator. He's made presentations on several fascinating topics involving communication and service. He's given an impressive TEDx talk available on YouTube, and he is well known to Del Deschamps, our longtime associate minister. And I am delighted to say I performed the wedding about 30 years ago for Sean's parents, Rosalind and Carl Schrader, in the 90s, and they are here. Would you wave to us, Rosalind? And thank you for sharing your wonderful son with us. We truly feel blessed to have Sean here with us so that the clear voice of our newest member can be heard, to help us hear what this enlightened and truth-oriented generation has to say. He's been called to teach English twice in Japan during the last several months and is here today to speak truth to us, his Unity family. Please help me to welcome Sean Schrader.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It is great to see all of you, and it is so exciting to be here on a very soon-to-be St. Patrick's Day. I want to thank Mary. She came over to me about 5 minutes before we began, and she said, with a name like Sean, if you don't have a shamrock on, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So she's kept me out of trouble. So it really is such an honor to be here with you today, to have the mentorship and the support of the Reverend over so many years. As she mentioned, with the officiation of my parents' wedding so long ago, without her help, I would not be here today, for better or worse, to give this kind of talk. And with all of the nice things she said about me, she stopped just short of all the bad things you say about Sean. So I think I owe her a check at the end. So if you see me try and run out or anything, you'll have to stop me. But it really is special to be here today. And the fact that you're here, the fact that you have continued to invest in the Unity Church, your time, your service, your willingness to support this great cause, I think is a great example of the small impacts every person can take to make a difference in what we're really going to talk about today. Now that we are in March, I think it's always an interesting time to think about our New Year's resolutions, right? Did anybody make any New Year's resolutions this year at all? Seriously, anybody know? Okay, maybe one or two, okay. I usually will think about one or two things I could do, like get that gym membership, but then I think I went to the gym, on January 3rd, and it was so crowded with all the people. I thought, no, I'll wait, But I also think about professional goals, but this year I had a big goal I wanted to set in the kind of coffee I drink, particularly the number of cups of coffee I drink. And if you've seen me come to this service, I usually have a Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee. Accidentally spilled a cup the other day, but it all worked out. But that's something I've really tried to focus on this year, of having only 1 cup of coffee a day. And that might sound easy, but over the last few years, with some of the things that were mentioned I've been fortunate to do, it meant a lot of very long and hard days, sometimes 12-hour days, 6 a.m. to 6 or, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with all kinds of meetings, and it was all a lot of fun. But in that process, then, I needed to have a lot of coffee to keep going. And unfortunately, I did not take after my parents who enjoy black coffee or maybe coffee with a little bit of cream. I've always been the type of guy you've got to have a caramel latte with whole milk and caramel sweetener and light ice and all this stuff. I think they know me on a first-name basis over at the Dunkin' Donuts with that kind of order. And with that kind of order, then, you're going to spend usually $4 or $5 every time. It's gotten to the point where I thought, as much as it might help my health to have less caramel lattes, I really am trying to protect my bank account so I don't have to get any kind of loan or anything. But through this time, through the last couple of months, unfortunately, I have not really done a very good job of holding up my end of the bargain on my New Year's resolution. This is my first cup of the day. Can't say it'll be my last. There might be one that comes this afternoon. But I use that kind of example in that analogy in all seriousness to talk about the power that comes from making conscious decisions. I'm aware of the fact that, I told myself I'd have 1 cup of coffee a day, but I consciously choose to go get 2 cups or maybe even sometimes 3 cups of coffee. And I think it speaks very, very clearly to the power of service in conscious decision-making. Wherever you're at in your life with different obstacles or challenges or obligations or opportunities facing you, you have that specific chance to make a choice, a conscious choice about how you're going to spend your time, who you're going to work with, what you're going to do within your community. And I think that's really important. And I think it speaks to a larger idea of the individual impact every one of you can make and we all can make when we work collectively on something that is important. And so for me, if you could have the first picture come up, please, I'd like to talk about my journey into service that's been a little different, but how it's inspired me. And hopefully by the end of this, give you all some ideas of how you might be able to get involved and do some different things. So as you can see here, all of my life I've loved collecting model cars, the Hot Wheels, the Matchbox, the Hess truck, whatever you want to call it. It started on my first birthday. My parents gave me some toy cars, and so I've collected them ever since. As you see, I've amassed quite a collection here over the years. And one day, I think I was in 1st or 2nd grade, I came home from school, and my dad was upset. I believe it was because the trash had not been picked up in our neighborhood. And so he thought, well, I'll just call some local officials in the city and see if maybe they'll pick up the trash and they'll take care of everything. Come to find out, those calls really didn't go very far, unfortunately. So he thought, well, we need to get this resolved and more importantly, need to have strong neighborhood voices in the city of Clearwater, and something I completely agreed with. And so at the time, being in second grade, I could not stay home by myself. So my dad, he found a particular meeting happening within our little neighborhood that was going to happen. And my mom, a math teacher at St. Pete College, she taught night classes. So there was nobody to watch me. So my dad made a deal. He said, I know you like cars a lot. And he said, if you go to this neighborhood meeting with me so I can meet some of the people who can help us with our issue with the trash, I will buy you a Hot Wheels car when we're done. And I thought, wow, that's a great deal, isn't it? If I be quiet, I bring my tablet with me, I'll download some car racing games on the tablet, and I'll be good to go. I even brought my headphones to make sure I didn't make any noise. And sure enough, I charged my tablet up. I had just enough to get me through the meeting. I behaved, and we went to Walmart, I think, afterwards and got a new toy car. And that started what would be years of doing this, where he took on leadership roles. And of course, my mom continuing to teach meant that I had to go with him. And so I took the cars as they came and got more picky. Some nights I'd say, well, no, we need to drive up to Toys R Us after we're over if you really want me to go with you. And so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every moment of it. And that continued for a long time until one night we were at some kind of neighborhood function, and I forgot my tablet. I was really upset. I wanted to get on the next level of the car racing game or whatever I was playing, and I couldn't do it. And I had to listen for about an hour and a half to different neighborhood and civic and community leaders talk about issues. And what really inspired me in that was the time that 20 or 30 community leaders would take out of their schedule, people that had busy 9-to-5 work days already, families at home, to be focused and committed in sitting together to talk about local issues and how you make an impact. And that's what really sparked my interest in wanting to serve. And if you go to the next picture here, you can see it started very young with a lot of different opportunities. This one in particular is when I got to go on a police ride-along when I was little to kind of see what's going on in our community. It was a lot of fun. And that kind of engagement and, again, that interest in local issues is what inspired me by the power of what can happen when you engage at the local level and really understand your impact. And so after that meeting, after experiences like this, to do this ride along and meet with local officials, things really started to pick up. I started to get involved with my dad with a group called the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, started to meet with the mayor and local city officials and everything. And then it was when I was in high school, at Largo High School, I thought, maybe I could do something crazy. Maybe I could apply for some kind of role. Maybe I could do something beyond just going to regular meetings, especially since, we kind of stopped getting toy cars a few years earlier. So I need to get some kind of investment out of my time. And so I applied to serve on the Clearwater Charter Review Committee. Has anybody heard of a Charter Review Committee before? A few people. Okay, so just to give you a basic overview, Clearwater, like many other cities or like the county or our state, has got a charter that is very similar to that of a constitution. That's kind of the governing rules and procedures and high-level policies that guide the city. And so every couple of years, of course, there are changes, as you all know, that happen within our society. And so this kind of document has to be updated. So they'll convene a group of about 20 or 30, maybe sometimes less than that, maybe 15 or 20 individuals that will sit around, talk about the document, review it, and make changes to the city council. And so a few people approached me and said, well, maybe you should think about applying for something like this. And so I applied, and I called up every member of the Clearwater City Council. And I said, look, I'm in high school. I think I'm 17 years old, so any proposed changes we make, I won't be able to vote on them. But I really would want to serve and would want to provide a youth perspective that is not always included in the decision-making process. And sure enough, I didn't get the first pick when they went around to vote, but I did get picked for that council and that committee, and that is what really took me on then to that next level of service and understanding then not only how young people can get involved, but then more importantly, how I could help encourage other young people and others to understand what are the pathways to actually serve within your community, particular councils, particular nonprofit organizations, particular groups like this, where you can really see and make an impact. And so that went on for a few years. I enjoyed that while I was at the University of South Florida. And then, of course, as you all know, the pandemic hit, and that made things a little tricky to navigate for everybody. And I kind of stepped back. I had some challenges with my grandparents I helped them through, and took a step back to also think about how I could best serve and how I could best maybe get involved. And maybe it wasn't only within my own community of Clearwater. Maybe it could be something at the University of South Florida where I could possibly serve and help engage other young people along the way. And so, sure enough, I took that year during the pandemic to kind of step back. I returned the next year, and I thought, okay, it's all full steam ahead. Now we're going to get on the 3 latte, train. And that's when I decided I wanted to run for the campus governor position at the University of South Florida in St. Petersburg, which essentially is that of student body president. And it was a heated election. I think we even had to have a runoff election in the first go. It was tense. I think we overblew the budget on yard signs that we had proposed. But in the end, it all worked out, and the students were very kind to elect me. And when I ran, I talked about the power of service, the power of making an impact, and what you could do within local organizations to make something happen that's meaningful. And so if you could go to the next picture. One of the first ways I was very, very fortunate to do this was when I was appointed by the city to serve on the St. Petersburg Clearwater International Airport Noise Abatement Task Force. That's a mouthful, isn't it? I don't even know what that means when you say it, even if you say it 3 times fast. But essentially, you all know Allegiant Airlines, right, that flies over here kind of low sometimes, or the Coast Guard or the Sheriff's Office. Some people don't like that, especially when they're flying over your house. Hopefully not that often, but at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. That's never a good thing. And so I was asked by the city to serve on this committee to kind of help ensure noise complaints were being abided by, and they could be heard by different citizens. And so this was something that I was passionate about, not only the chance to serve and get cool tours in the airport fire rescue truck, as you see here. Maybe I didn't dress the right way to get in the truck, but it all worked out. But also, though, to encourage students then to understand what the opportunities were like for them to get to serve within their own community, particularly with different boards that a lot of times go vacant. And when you have opportunities for young people, particularly to do that, that's very encouraging and inspiring. And so if you go on to the next one, one opportunity I found to be very helpful in this kind of journey while I was at USF, encouraging young people and then talking about leadership more broadly, was engaging with Feeding Tampa Bay. Has anybody heard of Feeding Tampa Bay before? Great, wonderful. So they do a lot of great work, as you know, in this community to help fight hunger and, wherever possible, stop starvation. And so what I really enjoyed was being able to bring delegations of students with me to help serve food to communities. And when I did this, a lot of times students would say, well, why am I going to go drive out to some food bank and spend 4 hours of my time on a Saturday to serve food to people, or go in the warehouse and stack boxes? And I said, well, if you're stacking the boxes, that means you don't have to go to the gym afterwards. That's your workout. It's heavy. I mean, those are some intense lifts you have to do. But in all seriousness, I talked about how you can visually see families that you help in times of need, people that are down on their luck, quite frankly. Maybe they've lost their job, maybe they're going through some kind of family situation, something where they're not going to be able to have food on their table or put food on the table for their family. And that is tough, right, when you think about what that is and that kind of challenge. But then when you're able to serve food, you're able to help those around you, it's something that doesn't take a lot of time. It's something that really you can see impacts people in a positive way, and you feel good doing it. And it's, most importantly, I think, a tangible action. However many pounds of food you have delivered, hundreds of pounds then as a collective that you've delivered within a couple-hour period, and then how that can transcend over the course of months and years, which I think is really, really important. And this kind of evolution of service for me really took a different turn while I was at USF in this campus governor role. As you might know, the University of South Florida is centered on the bay in the water. I get seasick a little bit, so if I don't have Dramamine, I can't go on a boat or anything. But it is a really nice view. There's airplanes coming in, there's the boats around. It's a really important area. And what I found when meeting with a lot of students was the negative things that are happening with water quality, particularly with trash, with waste that gets in the water from different ways. And then we thought a lot about, well, what are individual steps we all could be taking to protect the water, to promote water quality, which eventually impacts all of us, impacts marine life, and impacts our ecosystem. And the idea then came about to have a weekly or bi-weekly trash cleanup that students could participate in. You get some gloves, you get some trash bags, and then you're able to pick up trash. And that might sound like a small thing, but when you go for 2 or 3 hours to do this, with sunscreen on, of course, you're able to see just how many pounds of trash you clean up, how many marine life you've helped save in the process, and as a result, the kind of water quality you're able to promote. And so this idea of service in this kind of way has been something I've tried to practice not only here in America, but while I've spent some time in Japan. If you could go to the next picture, please. This was me this past fall. I was fortunate to participate in a beach cleanup in Japan, which was a lot of fun. They are very serious about picking up trash. I thought I had the biggest bag, and then one person came up with 4 bags they held themselves. I said, okay, they're very committed, which is very important. And to see then not only how that kind of concept of service, picking up trash, service helping others serve food, service in these types of categories transcends national borders and are things that are important to others around the world is very, very important. And I think since the time I served as the campus governor, and then I was fortunate to work with Congressman Charlie Crist and then teach English in Japan, and I will soon return. This will be my last Sunday service for a little while. I'm going to be returning to Japan beginning in the next week to serve as a U.S. ambassador representing Florida at the World Expo happening in Japan this year. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody said, since you're representing Florida, you got to bring alligator boots or something, that gives us the full theme. But in all of these experiences, I think that the biggest takeaway I've had is the importance of having mentors around you, having those that guide you, like my parents, like my grandparents, like friends and family, that tell you when you've got a good idea, when you've got to keep pushing forward on something that you think is important to you, and also when you've got crazy ideas and when you should not pursue something, but also when you have an idea that you want to serve, you want to give back, that maybe is not going to be real easy, right? It's going to require some kind of maneuvering. It's going to require you to change your approach in order to get something done, but all the while you can still make an impact happen. And that is really important. And as you can see here, if you go to the next picture, one of my very best mentors, my grandfather, Dean Robinson, who's watching today, the former Housing Authority Director for the Pinellas County Housing Authority, has been a lifelong mentor of service in our community for decades and has always inspired me with a very simple kind of message and theme. And that is that you've got to do good within your community, but more importantly, it's not about doing good to benefit yourself. It's about doing good to help the collective society around you, which I think is an important message, an important theme. And if you go to the next picture, from my graduation this past May, you see my parents and my other grandparents and a lot of other family that were there that helped me, that have always guided me. And so I share all of this today, then hopefully to give you some insight into what service can look like. If there's something that you're particularly passionate about, we've talked about a few issues, but as you mentioned earlier, there are a number of issues that are impacting us today that continue to impact us, whether it be something regarding our environment with the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it be something with reducing hunger in our communities, whether it be fear over the hurricane season that will soon come, and a lot of people still dealing with the impacts of our very unfortunate last season. These are all challenges that will continue, that are going on, that are unfortunately going to continue to happen. And then I challenge you to think about what is the individual impact you could be making today to do something. Maybe you don't have the money or that kind of financial commitment to support a nonprofit organization. That's okay. That's totally understandable. Maybe it could be your time then that you could donate, not days and weeks of your time, but an hour or two. Maybe not to go in the warehouse and sort out hundreds of pounds of food, but to encourage those around you, those in need of the kind of resource that Feeding Tampa Bay is, or the kind of resource that Keep Pinellas Beautiful or other organizations are for trash cleanups, or the opportunities you could serve and make an impact on through local city boards or opportunities in the community. And I think that is so important, that kind of concept of service, because as we talked about a little bit already, the problems we face today are very overwhelming. They're very challenging. It's challenging when you read news about things happening around the world that are constant issues that we face and have faced for a long time. But when you think about the individual impact you can make, the power of your individual contribution, not only that ability to serve, that ability to make a difference, but at the same time, that ability to inspire those around you, your friends, your neighbors, whoever you have as mentors or those that you serve as mentors for. That's very important, and that is very, very powerful. And so today, I would encourage you, and I hope from this talk, along with reducing your coffee intake or maybe practicing one type of New Year's resolution that you've set out to achieve this year, also really thinking at a high level about how we move forward as a society, how you utilize the principle of service that we've talked about today within the Unity Church to make your community a better place, help those around you, and really help create a better future for everybody that inspires people, that helps to encourage others, and ultimately makes our world a better place. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and we'll stick around for questions after. Thank you.
Wow.